You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
Broadcasting from the Blanchardstown Centre, this is Phoenix FM.
This is 92.5 Phoenix FM, community radio for Dublin 15.
Hey everybody, it's JB Jeremy Borash, and you are listening to Darrow O'Connor on the...
Hello everybody and welcome to Phoenix 92.5 FM. My name is Darrow O'Connor. You're listening to the Wrestling Rewind, the only podcast by wrestling fans who don't hate wrestling, and we have a heck of a show for you this week. Of course, the feed is up to date. Again, sorry for the bit of a delay there. We are trying to get better. We are trying to get better with social media. Go over to wrestlingrewind.com and you'll be able to follow us there. The more you follow us, the more incentive we have to get better at it. So please do make us get better. We have a very, very interesting show today. It is our first foray actually into TNA, not into punishment for Martin's hubris. Where he goes, I want to know what ECW would be like if ECW ran it, and then I'm willing to provide it. So on this show,
fair now, I never asked. I want to know what TNA would be like if Vince Russo ran it. I never.
Well, see, that's the thing. TNA was run by Vince Russo, and we will get into that because what we have today is, as I described to you earlier on, it's a really good vertical slice of like prime TNA. Not before it got really good in 2005 into 2007, but when it was getting there. But it still has so much weird stuff in it that it's just one of those shows you're like, what is this? So guys, you do not want to miss it. What I will say is, if this is your first time checking us out, thank you so much. Please go over and get the podcast, because I have to edit these shows quite comprehensively sometimes, and you miss and you miss the full experience of it. So if you want that, all I can say is the shows are free, but go over and get them, because you're not getting the full experience.
Sometimes the conversations wander into slightly more controversial topics that might scandalize the good listeners of Phoenix FM. Exactly.
And while we love being on Phoenix FM, we sometimes have to be careful that we of what we say. And then even though not even what we say, what's covered on the program sometimes, particularly when we're in the Attitude Era and the signs are getting very risque. So if you want the full experience, go over there and you're able to get all the shows for free. But if you do want to support us, we have Patreon tiers, which are not updated. At the moment, the most infamous and famous is the X-Pac Euro, so we would appreciate that.
Although for this particular episode, we're going to have to change that to the 6-pack Euro.
Yes, that's true. So if you want to give us a 6-pack Euro, you can go over and support us on Patreon. But that's enough plugging. That's enough promoting our own stuff before we get going. My name is Darrow O'Connor, and I'm joined by the one, the only, 1-0, undefeated Mr. Martin Hardy. How thanks, Martin?
Grand there. I'm feeling very cultured. I was just the girlfriend was saying past couple of weeks that we don't do enough sort of cultured stuff. We're living in Ireland's second city, and we should be out at theatres and seeing plays and doing all that kind of thing.
I think people from Cork would be very upset at that.
Well, Cork's the third. So if we're going by size, Cork's the third.
That's fair.
I live down in Cork, and these are great buys down there, but
they are great buys.
You're significantly smaller than Belfast.
It is one street. To be fair,
and a grand street.
It's a great street, but it's still one street. Yeah. That loops around. So,
I finally relented and took her out to the orchestra tonight. But that she realised that what the orchestra was doing a rendition of theme tunes from the Legend of Zelda series.
Oh wow!
So, yeah, it was actually kind of brilliant.
There's actually there's a good thing that used to tour video games live, and it was all theme music of like from different games, stuff like that, done with a full orchestra. Yeah, it's pretty cool when you see it actually all done. That
sounds class, because music's such a part of video games, but you tend to overlook it because it's there, but it's not like the active part of the game, but it makes up such a huge part of the experience. Like one of my favorite albums is the Hades soundtrack. It's just outstanding.
Oh yeah, no, there's some games that, like Foley in general is such a big thing, but like Hades is a really good example. But the most obvious ones are like Doom, but either one, like the new Doom specifically, like where you're doing the glory kills and stuff like that, and it's just the music kind of goes with it. So
Doom Quake metal gig, that'd be class.
Yeah, it'd be so good. But yeah, man, that's class. That's really good. I'm glad you had a good night. That's why when you're like, I'm going to a concert, I'm like, oh, are you sure you want to do a show tonight? But fair play, man. Like when I do a concert, I'm like, no, I'm drinking. that's it.
So I'm feeling very cultured, very civilized. So bit of Vince Russo era TNA is exactly what I need to bring me right back down into the muck.
Right down. But before we get into that, and again, it is going to be the bulk of this show, and if we do run over, we're going to go to it, because listen, if you haven't seen this show, it's free. It's on Impact Wrestling's own YouTube site. You can watch it for free, and you should. But before we get into it, it's a bit of AEW news. So we're 5 weeks away from the AEW show in London. There's been to be honest with you, man, this is like an earth-shattering report. And I know it's not on the scale of like Vince being fired and then being bought back and WWE being sold, but it is up there. This fundamentally, it is, and that's the word that I wanted to use. This fundamentally changes AEW, and I'm glad that I'm able to talk to you about this, like as it's happening, because it is like literally just breaking. But I'm going to read through this report, and then I'll get your thoughts on it, because I don't know how this is going to work. I'll be honest with you. Anyway, so there's a report here from Fightful Select. It's on everywhere. Cage Seeds, What Culture, Recipe, all this kind of stuff. They're pretty much everywhere is reporting this now in some way or other. But Fightful Select broke this earlier on today. Quote, AEW has sent out documentation that outlines a series of moves that are either banned or require approval from above. So obviously Tony Khan and the executives. The banned moves list includes unprotected chair shots to the head, strikes to the back of the head, blind moves backwards into the turnbuckle like the buckle bomb, spitting and selling like one is having a seizure. Wrestlers are also prohibited from physical contact with the crowd, including taking food and drinks from the fans in attendance. So a match that happens in this TNA show wouldn't be allowed. Weapons and projectiles in the crowd are a no-no, as is bleeding in the audience. The list of moves that require approval from above is much broader and includes things like, quote, bumping onto the ring, outside the ring, and on the ring apron, any spots with tables, ladders, or chairs, all variations of pile drivers, hurricane ranas, sit-down pile drivers or power bombs, using weapons and throwing objects, choking with hands and feet, high risks from the top rope, bleeding on purpose, injury spots, brawling into the crowd, any spots involving non-wrestlers like referees. Right, so that's everything. That's so this is so far. Look, some of these make sense, I'll be honest with you, right? I really do. Shots to the back of the head shouldn't be done. I mean, that's dangerous. Genuinely, that is dangerous. Unprotected chair shots, while the animal part of our brain is like, oh, it looks great and sounds great. It's like you shouldn't. So I get that. It makes sense. Pile drivers, fair enough. Bleeding on the audience, bleeding in the audience, interacting with the audience in that way. Okay, there's a case to be made that could cause problems, lawsuits, etc. Here's where it loses me, right? Using weapons in general, right? A Hurricane Rana. Any spots involving tabled ladders and chairs.
Well, I think it's important to make a distinction between the banned list and the kind of requires authorization list. So the stuff on the requires authorization list. My hope is that that'll just be a kind of hey, Tony, me and Jungle Boy is going to do a Poison Rana off the apron tonight. All right, just let you know. I'm hoping that that's what it is.
Yeah,
and that's why they've made it so separate from this banned list. So, like you said, some of the stuff's perfectly fine, and hasn't really been a thing. I mean, Cody Rhodes, I think, was the last time I saw an unprotected headshot in wrestling in 20 years, maybe. So I'm not worried about that.
Do you think? So there's been this thing for a while, and it's a meme, right? It is a meme, but it's a true meme. So that's still truth. Where AEW specifically does mad things, like ridiculous things.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of injuries. Do you think this is, and you can see them. I mean, there's Facebook pages and clips and stuff, you can see it. And it's like, the joke is, they're killing themselves for a hot dog and a handshake,
I think this is...
Do you think this is a reaction to that, where they're trying to actually stop that?
No. I think this is coming from Warner Brothers Discovery.
Really?
So
okay.
AEW is basically, if they haven't negotiated it already, they're in the finalizing process of negotiating their next TV rights deal.
Right.
And I think what's happened here is Warner Bros. Discovery has said, look, this is great, but we don't want to be paying out for a big guy like Punk or Bryan Danielson or Moxley if they're going to spend, 6 months of the year, every year, injured.
Yeah.
And also, if we're doing bigger venues with more people and we're becoming a bigger company, we don't want to risk, like lawsuits from audience members who got splattered with blood or hit with, a drink or something. So I think this is coming from Warner Bros. More than AEW itself. My hope is that TK will sign up to it and go, yeah, great, thanks lads. And then it'll just kind of be, it'll be a poster on a wall somewhere, but nobody's really going to listen to it.
Yeah.
Because as you say, some of this stuff is just nonsense. Like next week they're doing Blood and Guts.
Literally. Literally. Yeah, it makes no sense.
You can't. And what about so there's a whole section here, blood in the crowd, objects in the crowd, weapons in the crowd, taking drinks from guests in the crowd. That is Anarchy in the Arena. Yeah. That's like one of their most famous match types. That's it. Like if this is to be taken as read, that's done with.
Yeah.
There were obviously going to be changes in AEW as it became a bigger company, because bigger company, more money, more investment, but with more investment, more people have a say. And the worst thing is that the people who have the say are not always wrestling people. And I have always said that if AEW has to become WWE to be as successful as WWE, I would much rather that they stay as the number 2 company forever. So look, this list on its own.
Because the thing about it is, like, again, a lot of these make sense. I mean, if I never saw an unprotected chair shot again, I would be like, okay, that's fair enough. Strikes to the back of the head. They're lethal. I know they're lethal. They're very dangerous. You do it even in a real, quote, real sport. It's looked down upon, right? If not banned outright. So, I mean, that makes sense. Buckle bombs, fair enough. I mean, look, it ended Sting's career, basically. And it's, it's...
I get the buckle bomb specifically. What I don't get is blind move backwards into the turnbuckle. So there's going to be a lot of moves that will affect, in terms of like Pac does like a shotgun drop kick that sends them into the turnbuckle. And
I know that's a little bit different because, like, I mean, I think it's more. Yeah,
that's what I mean. What is that? So a blind move backward into the turnbuckle could technically be an Irish whip.
True. I don't see
when you hit
the way I think
the turnbuckle, you're facing the other way. So
the way I think blind is interpreted here, and again, you can probably interpret this anyway. You can make an argument for anything, but I think the way they're interpreting this is, you are fully just. You have there's momentum is just carrying it. You're not guided in. Like with a buckle bomb, you're just thrown in and you're not even able to protect yourself. Really, that move actually was always very dangerous. To be honest with you,
it was. And look, see a specific move being, but like, yeah, I like if I never see a buckle bomb again, like, so what?
Spitting is weird. I mean, okay, fair enough. And selling like one is having a seizure. I get why.
Well, that's fair. Some of these are very clearly references to specific incidents.
Specific incidents, yeah, exactly.
So taking drinks from food, like that's MJF, and the seizure is Bryan Danielson.
Yeah.
But the spitting is one, like, because that's such a big part of it. Like, how many wrestling storylines over the years have been
spit? Yeah.
Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, their whole thing was what was it? Michaels went to spit at Bret and Bret moved and it hit the Undertaker. Like, the guys are out there wrestling. They're in their pants basically. They're all over each other. Like, I don't think a bit of spit is going to be any kind of additional, medical danger or threat.
I think it's just there's probably a lot of this that has to kind of be done. But my hope is, particularly when you're moving down to the approval side of things, that it doesn't tame the product down. Because, I mean, that like, for example, Moxley can't wrestle then. This is his entire career. Like, he's done.
This is what concerns me is that, like, and again, we only have the list. We don't know where it's come from. My reading of this is that it's part of the TV rights negotiations with Warner Brothers Discovery. Because I don't see Tony Khan just suddenly deciding that he doesn't like, Hurricane Ran or, or interactions with the crowd or anything.
Yeah.
And so this list on its own, totally in isolation, we'll see how it works out. I'm not worried. It's not the end of AEW or anything, but I am concerned that it is a sign that as the company gets bigger, we're going to see more and more encroachment on the creative end of it from the business end of it. And that concerns me because that's basically how WWE ended up being the sort of bland, homogenized, pasteurized product we have today.
Oh, but that's the other side of the coin, man. Anything that is bland and homogenous, anything that is successful to everybody is going to be bland and homogenous.
Exactly,
there's a reason why pop music is popular. There's a reason why Fortnite is popular. It appeals to everybody.
What I don't get with these business heads is that AEW has achieved the success, like the phenomenal success it has. Like, putting aside all the tribal stuff, like, forget about, like, don't even talk about it as wrestling. This is a startup company that in 4 years has become the biggest in the world, next to the global leader that's had a 60-year head start and 20 odd years without any competition. So I don't understand how these business heads come in and go, look, we're going to give you more money, but we'd like to change some stuff. It's like, no, leave the creative end of it alone.
Look, that is where that's mostly affected. And there's a great channel or a great series on YouTube called What Happened or What Happened. And it's, that's what happened in video games. Video games were the Wild West for a while. People realized you could get so much more money and much broader appeal, which is true. And it just became its whole thing. And the more money that goes into it, the more stakeholders. And I mean, it makes sense, man. It's just it is one of those things where I'm like, I really hope this isn't the way, because like, look, maybe a lot of what Vince did and has done creatively was for a reason. It makes money. It's incredibly successful. Is it bland and boring? Yes, but it makes money.
Yeah, it appeals to the widest possible.
You know what this goes back to? Butt punk. And I think this is another kind of thing. And look, maybe this could be blown out of the water, but the fact that this is so,
I'm hoping
out of nowhere as well.
Yeah, my hope is that this is something that they've signed up as part of the.
Yeah,
you know, something that covers them legally.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think
nudge,
you're right.
Nudge.
Yeah. The only thing about it is, though, I will be watching it with a keen eye, because I'm like, all right, how does this change? Because as you said, Blood and Guts is next week.
But like,
it's
Blood
ridiculous.
Guts, Anarchy in the Arena. Like they've just put out, or they're putting out, what is it, Stadium Stampede for the AEW game. They're making a Stadium Stampede update, so like I assume we'll see it return at some stage. Like,
yeah.
See, as the company gets bigger, I get that the investment end of it is going to want to see more of a return on that. And in order to get that return, you need to appeal to a wider group of people. But my view is that would lead to the complete collapse of the company, because they don't need a broad, bland wrestling product, because there already is one. AEW exists as an alternative. And if it comes out, like if it tries to transition into being just another WWE, it'll just collapse, because that already exists. Exactly.
And, you know, to kind of transition a little bit and go into TNA, that's what happened in TNA. You know, that is literally the problem. They got so big by being an alternative, good or bad, and we'll talk about some of the problems with it, but it was an alternative at the time. And then they were like, how do we get bigger? Well, let's be like WWE. And the more they became like WWE, the worse it got, until they went back and they're like, no, we need to be what we are. And again, man, look.
Because why would you watch WWE live when you can just watch WWE?
Exactly. But the thing about it is, from the get-go, and I know I'm like a broken record sometimes, but if they do go down that road, they'll have to learn that lesson as well, where they'll homogenize themselves to such a point where they're copying off WWE. And then they'll lose their core audience, shrink, collapse, or somehow, like TNA will survive a nuclear war. Like, they will always be around. I don't know how they're still around. It's incredible. It really is.
Nuclear holocaust and all that. What are these cockroaches doing in the Impact Zone?
All that will be left is cockroaches and Impact Wrestling. That's it. Like, that's the only thing that'll be left.
Jeff Jarrett.
But I mean, that's the lesson that should have been learned from TNA. And I hope, like, this triggers my Spidey sense, my TNA PTSD, like, where I'm like, oh God, I've been here before, you know, and I hope it is just a legal thing and it isn't a sign of the times. But I'll put a pin in it, because we do have to hop in the time machine, man.
But reading that, none of that strikes me as coming from Tony Khan.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's from way above them. I think it's from way above them. But we are going to hop in the time machine. We're going to go to a new part of the world we've never been to before. We've never been to the TNA Asylum. So we're hopping in the time machine to June 18th, 2003, Nashville, Tennessee, the TNA Asylum, with an attendance of a whopping 1,000 people. And this isn't just any show. This is TNA's first anniversary show. So it commemorates the first anniversary of the first ever TNA show, which took place June 19th, 2002.
I'll tell you what I'll say for the 1,000 people that were there.
This would become
noise than you get on an average Raw with 15,000 people at it.
So this would eventually become Slammiversary, right? So just to put it into perspective, it's the Bound for Glory is their WrestleMania, right? And Slammiversary is like their SummerSlam. So that kind of that makes sense for people. And they would do the King of the Mountain match and this. So
I thought it was the other way around.
It depends. It depends. It used to be.
I'm not correct. I'm asked because I
No. It genuinely depends. Like, Bound for Glory is their biggest show that they run, but it used to be, and then they brought Bound for Glory and it became the biggest thing. Like, even if you look at the press releases now, Slammiversary is very important, They do the King of the Mountain match. I don't think they do it anymore, but when they did, they pumped that. But Bound for Glory is the one that they...
Because Slammiversary is the only TNA show that I watch regularly every year.
Yeah.
Because I had assumed that it was there.
No, Bound for Glory is the big one,
Wow.
Because they're going off the... They're going off... Yeah, they're going off the... Basically, their logic is the same as Starrcade. There's no big show at the end of the year. So they do at the end of the year. But it did swap. Like, up until Bound for Glory took off, really, this would have been the WrestleMania. So it does really depend. But yeah, Bound for Glory is their big show. And if you that's the one that they took to Japan. That's the one that they do all the crossover with New Japan as well. So
cool.
What I'd say is... Everything in TNA, particularly, and this is not just for you, Martin. This is for everyone listening who may have not have done this is why I've been apprehensive to do it. At the start of each match, usually in the TNA show, they explain what's going on. I'm going to have to do that with time periods because it's all hard and fast. You know, it's like it's this, and then it's this, and then it's back to this. So just, you know, everything with a grain of salt.
TNA, and then it's Impact, and then it was briefly
GCW,
UWF for a while, wasn't it?
No,
in fact, this isn't even TNA. This is NWA TNA.
Yes, so this is when TNA were part of the National Wrestling Alliance. So and all the titles that they had were also a part of the National Wrestling Alliance. I think in 2005 they had the split and they went separate, and then we had the first TNA title. But yeah, pretty much all of this kind of stuff, with the exception of the X Division belt, it's all sanctioned by the NWA.
Because it was, when I was watching it, there was something just slightly surreal about AJ Styles with the NWA 10 pounds of gold. Like it was just off a bit. So
basically we are going to do our In Your House arc soon, but I wanted a palate cleanser. This show is nice is a wrong word. It's 2 hours and it's a good vertical slice for TNA, because I mean I didn't want to go super hard with the really good stuff, and I didn't want to go super hard with the real terrible stuff. I wanted to just be like, right, this is
both of which I'm looking forward to.
Exactly. But we need a baseline. We need a baseline for everybody, because, like, again, I know what this is. Dave knows what this is. A lot of people listening might, but then a lot of people might not, you know. And this one is free.
I don't.
Exactly. Look, this one is free. It's on the YouTube channel that they have. It's you know, legitimately, it's you don't. There's no paywall, and I tried to keep it as accessible as possible. And you know, I would say if you haven't seen it, go watch it. Go watch it. I'll link it in our description when this does go up. But you can watch it now and then come back because it will make a lot more sense. Again, a lot of the stuff that we talk about, it will sound crazy, but it's actually what happened on the show. So please just, this is going to be a mixture of like both parts of WCW, where like the bad and the good, you know?
Yeah, we're not going to like, this isn't like a latter day WCW review where we're just going to rip it apart for 90 minutes. Like, there's genuinely good stuff in here, but it's almost even more frustrating then because the really good stuff is kind of being drowned out by a whole pile of Vince Russo crap.
Yeah, basically. So, you know when I knew there was a problem? When the show started off with a cover of Toxicity by System of a Down. I was like, that sounds really familiar.
It's like, oh no, they're doing the WCW thing where they take a popular song and change one chord.
Literally, that's what happened. There's one part where the note is slightly different, and it's like, oh wow, you've used the same effects and everything. So I forgot that was the TNA team music and also Vince Russo's team music. So it does make sense, but it's also like, wow, we're only in, like, we've just started and already they're aping WCW. Now, I will have to say the video package, that aside, was actually quite good. It really got you kind of, it got you pumped to like, wow, the first year they actually have done an awful lot. Had a lot of the X Division kind of stuff, had a lot of AJ Styles, and but also a lot of Vince Russo, which is kind of part of it. But what's interesting about this off the bat is they know what they have. They know the X Division is what brought them there, why people are watching, because it is unlike anything else, you know. We're also
Can you help me out with something, Dara, here?
Of course, yeah.
So this is how do I explain this without muddling everything up? This is a pay-per-view, but this was at a time when every weekly show was technically a pay-per-view.
Yes.
But
So
this is a pay-per-view in that it's not just literally pay-per-view. It is a bigger show.
So that's actually a great question. I should have mentioned that. So at this point, TNA didn't have a TV deal. There was no TV deal. Their first TV deal was with Fox Sports Online, which actually, when you think about it, was really, really forward thinking. And then after that, it was Spike, right? But before that, they would just run pay-per-views where every single show would be a pay-per-view. You'd have to go buy it in order, right? But this show specifically is an anniversary of their first show. So while they're not calling them pay-per-views in the sense that they're an event, this was the first event pay-per-view.
Yes.
That makes sense? Okay.
So because the term pay-per-view kind of has two meanings in that.
It does, yeah.
There's the literal that you pay-per-view, but also wrestling fans over the years have come to understand the term pay-per-view as
a big deal.
Major show until they decided to change it to PLE.
Yeah, so essentially every show was a PLE. Well, to put it into modern parlance, like you would directly sponsor the show by buying it every week or every couple of weeks when they do it.
Do you know how much was if you're tuning into TNA, how much was an episode?
Oh, it would be what it would normally be. It would be like $50.
What?
Yeah.
And how many?
They did the weekly shows, right? So they would do. This was the 50th show.
People were not dropping $200 a month on TNA, were they?
Of course they weren't. Of course they weren't. But they needed revenue somehow, and this was the only way they could really do it. I don't know if
why not put it on pay-per-view for a $5 a show?
Dude, this was a different time. they were just trying to get as much money as possible, and again, a lot of this was being run at loss as well, right? So there's money here, but there's also not money here, and there will obviously, it's an interesting case study because there's lots of different angles we can take at it. But basically, when you look at it this way, right? This is a wrestling show, a weekly wrestling show that's trying to get TV. That's the whole purpose of what's going on here. They're trying to get TV. So they're running out of loss to try and get it. But the thing about it is they're not touring. They have pretty decent facilities like the Asylum. It actually looks like the National Stadium. It really does.
And it's a good setup. I wasn't being facetious when I said that the 1,000 people there make more noise than
they do.
Raw. Like they did.
They did, yeah. It sounds like a house show in a good way. Like
it doesn't feel like a small time indie or anything.
No. It okay. So there is another promotion that we're going to cover because it only existed for like 6 months called WWA. Have you ever heard of that company before? Yeah. So that was the bridge from when the Titanic of WCW and ECW was going down. They all jumped onto those lifeboats before TNA happened. It's the proto TNA, and this is like a really interesting
Bret Hart
snapshot.
did a WWA tour at one stage.
Yeah, he was the commissioner.
Yes, he wasn't wrestling.
He was in Dublin. Yeah,
he was, because I saw an interview he did. He was on. It was in England. They did some TV show and he was on like this morning show, and he was supposed to be there to like hype up the WWA show, but my God, I've never seen a man more disinterested in anything in his entire life.
Well, we will get to that, but that's a separate episode in and of itself. But why I bring it up is because a lot of the talent just used their gimmick. So they used their WCW, their ECW, and their WWE gimmick there. They did very much the same thing here because they weren't on TV. Technically, they were able to get away with it, but not really. It wasn't until they went on TV or started doing the online stuff where WWE were like, "Hey, what are you doing, PJ Polacco? You're not just incredible. We own that." So that's why when you're watching the show, you're like, "Well, okay, I guess it's that weird like negative zone where it's like it doesn't count, but does count, but doesn't count. Like the first thing you see on the show is Sam Man walking out in an ECW shirt.
Yeah,
doesn't
you're just
ECW?
hoping. TNA is just kind of hoping that WB is looking at this going, it's not worth the money it would cost us to file the paperwork to sue them.
They're literally, or they're like, we're hoping WWE don't know about this, which is probably the truth of it as well, because it's so small by comparison. There's no threat at all. So I don't know. It will be interesting to see how much that changes as we kind of move on from this point. But in between the invasion angle and like TNA getting television after Unbreakable 2005, that's when like this weird nebulous negative zone exists where gimmick infringement and trademarks don't matter really, because Sting walks out with his WCW music, which is also a rip-off of Seek and Destroy by Metallica. It literally is Seek and Destroy by Metallica. So I mean, you figure it out. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so
it's mad when you think about that like because ECW pulled stuff like this as well, and TNA is doing this, and nowadays everything is so above board and litigious. Like poor Tony Khan has to give away like half his money just to get the final countdown for one show.
But that's the thing. It's a different world, and that's why when we're looking at it, you kind of have to really sit back. It's what we say about the Attitude Era. It's of its time. This is very much of its time in every way. It's like it's pre-internet, but not pre-internet, but not like really good internet. And that's where it exists, and that's how it kind of did what it was able to do.
This era of TNA is something that actually could have really benefited from, like YouTube.
Oh yeah,
but YouTube as we have it today, in that it's able to broadcast like high quality production stuff.
But that's what it was doing, and it was doing it in the only way it could, which was pay-per-view.
The pay-per-view, yeah, but I'm sure like the pay-per-view providers take like a huge chunk
of course.
Whereas if you were just sticking it up on YouTube, you could do that yourself with very little cost.
Yeah, but then they wouldn't be able to do, like WWE would copyright the hell out of most of this. I'm actually amazed they haven't done now. It must be some kind of deal that they've struck with them. It has to be, because it's like there's just so much copyright infringement where you're like, whoa, okay.
Well, maybe WWE was looking at TNA at the time and going, well, we've eaten WCW, we've eaten ECW. We should probably leave TNA alone, because we're going to need a place to get wrestlers from.
Yeah, which might have happened. I mean, like most of WWE's roster is from Impact Wrestling.
Yeah.
So
I mean, look at so the champion in this is AJ Styles, and where's AJ now?
Exactly. So look, the first match is the Tree Live Crew. That's the dark match. There's a couple of dark matches we're not talking about. The first match is D'Lo Brown, Kazarian, the Sandman, David Young, Don Harris, and Sonny Saki, right? So this six-man tag team match, they lampshade the fact that it's very weird that D'Lo and Sandman are in a team. And it's even weirder that Frankie Kazarian is in the team with them. Basically, this is a match to build up Kaz, which it is, because Frankie Kazarian will become one of TNA's biggest stars, and it's kind of a shame that he's on AEW now, and he's kind of a shadow of himself.
I think he's gone.
Is he gone? But last time I saw him, he was there. But man, when I think
he's gone literally in like the last 2 or 3 weeks.
But when I say Kazarian was a massive star, he was massive star.
They just towards the end of the pandemic, they really hit on something awesome with Kazarian. So he did quite well when AEW first started, because he was he was their first tag team champion with Christopher Daniels.
Yeah.
And then they split up, and that kind of got a nice moment, and the two of them went off on their own then. And he started this feud with the Elite, where he called himself the Elite Hunter. And basically, anytime a member of the Elite was a match or backstage or whatever, he'd appear out of nowhere and like beat the hell out of them. And it was really cool. And people got behind it, and people were going, oh my God, this is going to be great. We're going to get Kazarian versus Hangman, then versus each of the Bucks, and then all building up to Kazarian versus Omega for the world title. And like, obviously he'll lose, but that'll be such a cool run. And then they just, like 3 weeks in, they just dropped it. And people were like really hyped for it.
Yeah, and it's that's kind of sad to hear, because it's very like the whole, one of the true lines of Impact when it wasn't being mismanaged was the career of Frankie Kazarian. You can really follow it, and Christopher Daniels, both of whom are on the show, which is funny. But yeah, like this match basically was to build up Kazarian. Now, what's interesting is, right, the Sandman does nothing. At one point, he goes out and he busts himself open, and then he goes out and smokes in the crowd, which is definitely a move. And he'd find himself in trouble on the AEW banned list. He would. And yeah, obviously, the faces win. D'Lo Brown is there for some reason, and they have a little beer bash at the end. What did you make of this opener?
I thought this match was decent. I thought I was really surprised to see D'Lo, but I thought he did quite, like, it's obvious that he's not the D'Lo of 1998.
No.
But I thought he did pretty good. I thought he looked slick. Like, anytime you see these guys putting a 6-man tag, like, it's obvious that it's because, they can't fully go anymore. Yeah. But I thought he was really, really good. The match itself, I mean, it was only, was it like 6 minutes long or something like that? It wasn't massive. But
the real talking point at the end of it was the run in.
Yeah, with Sting and Jarrett.
So my question before you jump in, you complained last time when you saw Jarrett there was no guitar shot. Immediately we're 10 minutes in and we have the bat and the guitar being used.
Yeah, but here's the thing is, so like, I get what you were saying about the Toxicity ripoff. Yes, it was obviously a ripoff, but it was pretty cool. So this thing starts with that awesome opening package. You have this genuinely good, like, 6-man tag. It's not the best match in the world, but it's like fast paced. There's people in it you recognize. It's good wrestling. And then the next thing, you got Sting and Jarrett coming down. You're getting your big brawls. You're getting your guitar shots, like the bats out. The crowd is like, these 1,000 people are absolutely white hot for what is happening. And I'm sitting watching this going, this is great.
Yeah. Like, I'm of the same opinion, genuinely.
TNA flying. Like, I'm ready to get in behind all this. Absolutely hyped. And then the next thing, everything grinds to a halt with an 18-minute Vince Russo promo. Just sapped the life out of this.
Before you get into that, there is one thing that I do have to give, and I wish more companies would do it. I know why they don't do it, but I wish they would do it. Mike Tenay and Don West, still a bummer that Don West is dead. There was nobody like Don West. I love Don West and Mike Tenay on commentary. They're just phenomenal. They really are.
What I would say is, like, one thing that is consistent through the show is that I genuinely enjoyed the commentary.
It's great, isn't it? It's really good. But they do a thing where they're talking into the headset, obviously, but then they have a microphone, right? So they're recapping what's going on to the audience at home and in the crowd. And I wish they would do that, because when you're at a live show, you have no idea what the commentators are saying.
I was so surprised. The first wrestling show I ever went to, I was so surprised that there was no commentary.
Yeah. And look, I get why they don't do it, because it does sound kind of weird, but it's like, no, you should really look after your crowd, because they have no idea what's going on. So the thing about Impact, and they've done it from, this was a WWA carryover because they used to do that too. And I think it's a great idea, and they stopped doing it in Impact eventually, but this is brilliant. Just do that. So I do have to quickly call that out. But yes, the entire show grinds to a screeching halt where you have Vince Russo cutting a promo about nothing. Basically getting himself over as a face, and then a mega heel, and it ends up with
it's all the usual Russo stuff. You people in your trailer parks.
And you can hear when he loses the crowd, because it's not so bad at the beginning. D'Lo comes out then, and then it just goes off a cliff.
But here's the thing. Nobody wants to hear an 18-minute promo from anybody.
No.
Like, it's like, do you remember when The Ultimate Warrior returned to WCW and the crowd was pumped for it? And then he waffles on for the guts of 20 minutes, and it just kills everyone.
But
and Vince Russo was no Ultimate Warrior.
What they were trying to do here, right? So AJ had just won the belt from Raven. Raven had one of the best feuds of in TNA history, genuinely, right? Raven's best run, other than with Punk throughout Europe, was with Jeff Jarrett in very early TNA, right? So the story they were trying to tell was that Raven wants his belt back. The story they actually told was Vince Russo is not a very nice man. I can't use a term that I wanted to use. Is not a very nice man, and he's in a power play.
The type of person you might see next Tuesday.
There you go. Which is when the show was on. It's on every Tuesday. Thanks, Martin.
Actually, come here. Not to to jump off to a different topic, but maybe you can give me the details in this. So I've heard two different stories for the origin of TNA.
Oh yeah.
Apparently, one of them is that it was originally called Tuesday Night All Stars, and then WWE started putting something on of a Tuesday night. So then
it's not. It's a dirty joke.
So it is TNA.
Yeah. For example, the tag team that we just saw are Sex Sports and Entertainment Extreme.
Yeah. That doesn't even make sense, because that would be C.
Yeah,
Extreme begins with an E.
These are prime Vince Russo things. So, this 18-minute promo that basically killed the show. Like, the whole crowd are like, what is this? It didn't even tell the story they were trying to tell, which would pay off at the end of the show. So he actually books the show quite well, but can't help himself.
He books
and that's
it around himself.
No. WWE books it around Vince, right? Usually when they would do this kind of stuff around him commands. He books the show correctly, but then interferes and ruins it completely. He is a guy who wants to be a wrestler but doesn't want to train or practice or exercise, or he just wants to just be a wrestler but not have to do any of the work. Yeah. Because he keeps putting himself in, like he did the same in WCW, like he was constantly putting himself in matches and angles and. Well, that's the thing. But when you're watching the show, or when you're watching any TNA show, it is quite interesting to see that, because there is that element of the show does make sense, but all the other stuff pulls away from it. And literally their first Slammiversary is ruined by this 18-minute promo that didn't need to happen.
Yeah.
Nothing was achieved. But,
I was, like I say, such goodwill going into this. Opening promo was deadly. First match, great. Sting, Jarrett running, brilliant. Hot crowd. Like, I went into this with so much goodwill.
Yeah.
Man, that really just absolutely put a roadblock right in the middle of the whole thing.
But then they immediately win it back with a fantastic X Division title match with Chris Sabin and Paul London.
before you get into that, they'd actually kind of won it back for me just before that. So just before,
sorry, I forgot about that. Yes, go on. Yes,
just before this match starts.
Thank you for catching that. Sorry.
We go from the Vince Russo snooze fest to a very brief sort of backstage segment with, I can't remember who the other ones are, but the guy who walks into the middle of the backstage segment is none other than CM Punk, but not just any CM Punk.
Hold on. I need to give context. The girl is Mickie James.
Oh, right.
The girl is Mickie James, and I can't remember who the other guy is. He's one of the members of the flock.
Or Ravens.
Ravens flock. Gathering.
Yeah, he's not allowed to call it the flock. So Punk wants to join Ravens Gathering. These two are members of them, and basically he walks in to say, "Hey, listen, you told me you were going to talk to Raven about getting me in, but I could not hear a goddamn word he said because he is 2 nipples pierced Punk."
And basketball short wearing Punk.
Basketball shorts, 2 nipple rings, just... What the goddamn hell is? There's something like I don't know. Do you remember we were talking a couple of weeks ago about how a wrestler?
Oh my god, I can't. No, I just went back to watch it. Oh my god, I can't help but notice that now. Thank you for that.
So it's like, do you remember we were talking a couple of weeks ago about how when a wrestler isn't wearing elbow or knee pads, he looks like extra naked.
Yeah.
2 nipple rings is just wrong.
Yeah,
it's just, but it doesn't look. He looks extra naked somehow.
I don't blame you for like not copping that's Mickie James, because it's the most distracting thing in the world now.
You can't see anything. Blinded by the glint of Punk's nipples.
Oh man! But yeah,
instantly I was back on board.
that's probably the greatest women's champion in history in Impact Wrestling, and this is her first thing, and she's completely overshadowed by Punk with 2 nipple rings.
Does it speak to the egalitarianism of TNA, and perhaps that they were moving away from this idea of the divas being nothing more than, you know, something to look at?
Yeah.
When Mickie James, a fantastically attractive woman, is outshone, the focus is on Punk's nipples rather than hers.
Yeah. It's crazy though, but like, I genuinely cannot remember who the second guy is.
No, I didn't. To be honest, it's not even. I can't remember. I didn't even recognize him when he was. So I don't know who he was. Yeah. But yeah, this kind of. I was sitting half asleep, going, "Oh my god, when is this Russo thing going to end?" And this kind of woke me up.
And then you have the clip that shows when AJ Styles won the X Division title, which was when he won the actual title. We saw it twice.
NWA,
yeah. So he wins the NWA X Division Championship, and Ricky Dragon Steamboat is in the crowd. Sorry, is in the referee. They do the whole crowd streamers thing. I don't think that was in the Asylum because the crowd does look very, very different. So I think that was on one of their touring shows. And then it kind of does a video package where it's like, SEX Sabin. So Sabin's part of SEX. And then London comes back from Japan. So the story of this is you have, I have it running at speed, and the women in the cage is shaking. Is really distracting at like double speed.
Oh my god! Like, and they're fully like there's
they zoom in. It's very distracting.
At the entranceway, they have 2 women dancing.
We are going to stop there because we're almost at time, and then we can properly talk about stuff. Won't get us kicked off. So, all right, man. To run down the clock here, is there anything you want to plug before we kind of move into overtime here?
No. Like I say, we're going to some stage. We have a couple of things coming up over the next few weeks. I know before, for example, All In, we're maybe going to take a look back at the original All In.
Yes.
So we've a couple of different things coming up, but I am excited about the arc we're doing on the In Your House shows, because I think like this was a nice vertical slice of TNA. I think the In Your House shows go through a really interesting transition period for WWE, and I think that'll be interesting to follow.
Very good, very good. And I mean, that's kind of what we're trying to do. We're trying to diversify a little bit away from just going to the Attitude Era. But listen, the main thing is this show is your show. So if you do want us to do something, some kind of show that we maybe haven't seen, or maybe you want us to go back and look at Unforgiven 1999 again, let us know. And the way you can do that is you can either email us, you can get us on our social media, or even better again, you can give us an X-Pack/6-pack euro, and we'll be very grateful for that. But the best thing you can do is spread the word of the show and tell other people, hey, there's this cool wrestling podcast that the lads talk about nonsense. And we do appreciate that as well. And everyone on Phoenix FM who obviously gives us this slot as well. So we'll be back next week to, what's it? In your house next week.
Yeah, we'll kick off the In Your House arc next week.
We will, and then we'll go on from there. So guys, we'll be back after this short break. If you're listening to the podcast, please do, because we have only started the TNA nonsense. And we will talk to you after this short break next week here on Phoenix 92.5 FM. Bye guys.
Keep her left.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.
To the Wrestling Rewind here on Phoenix 92.5 FM's bonus show. So we're not on the radio, but we're on Nerd to Know Media, the Wrestling Rewind.com, and the True Penny channel, where all podcasts are made available. Also Spotify, iTunes, all that kind of good stuff as well. Actually, iTunes doesn't exist anymore. It's just the thing I say. It's Apple Podcast, but I'm still.
Oh, is that what that is?
That's what that is now. Yeah, but I think iTunes is better. I think it sounds better. And it's more appropriate, man, because we're back in 2003 talking about TNA's first anniversary show, which would become Summiversary. And look, the reason why I stopped you beforehand was because I was like, girls in cages.
Well, yeah,
shaking their arse, which is what they do, and it's very gratuitous.
Oh, it's full on. Like, so the entranceway is set up with these cages, and there's a girl in this cage dancing. I mean, that's fair enough. You know, it's got like a kind of a underground
Nitro,
party image kind of thing. Where it gets leery is the camera work. Like a girl dancing in a cage is like, oh, that's a cool shot. A girl dancing in a cage, but you have zoomed in on the 16 square inches around her arse. You know, that's it gets. You know, who it gets a bit.
You know who they should have brought in as their man on the ground expert.
Oh, not what
Mark
do you call him? Oh, Mark. Yeah,
it's just
what that really needs is just a low growl over it.
Mike Tenay and Don West just cut away to Mark Madden. Mark, what do you think about this? That's what I was missing. That's why TNA didn't succeed.
But yeah, so there's and the thing is that, like, whenever I think of women's wrestling TNA, like, I think of it actually being given like taken a wee bit more seriously. Like the Knockouts division,
yeah,
for a period was quite good. Again, I'm not the TNA kind of expert that Dara is, so I don't know which era of TNA I'm talking about here. But like, whenever I think of women's wrestling TNA, I do think of the likes of Mickie James, and I do think of the wrestling being taken more seriously. But my God, this is full on. This is Attitude Era.
Well,
divas,
you do have to put it into context, because like that hasn't happened yet. You know, it would happen, but not yet. Like we're like 2 years out from Nitro no longer existing. You know, like 2001 happened. There was nothing, and then there was this, and that's why the best way to think about this period is the little ship that took people off the Titanic to New York. You know, That's that's the way to look at it. Like, you know, and then it's going to have a lot of the echoes of those shows. And I just that one is just weird though, because I mean, when we watch it at second speed, it's very distracting.
So there's not a single women's match on this show, is there?
No. There is a lot of women dancing though.
Oh yeah, and there's lots of skits and stuff backstage and all that.
But like this match specifically though, like Sabin would obviously become part of the Motor City Machine Guns, which phenomenal tag team.
Great match, like.
And then you have Paul London, obviously, who, you know, would go to WWE and have a pretty decent career of his own in tag team wrestling. But Sabin would be like a TNA mainstay, and he would eventually win the championship. But like, you can really see here that this is the second longest match outside of the main event, because this is, they know what side their toast is buttered on. Like, this is the match that you paid to see. This is the match that you know, they will clip from again and they will use. And fair play to two lads. Sabin,
but even at that, it's only is it 7-8 minutes?
It's about 8 minutes.
Yeah. So one of the, like, this is an excellent match, right? And even the interference in it is, so Punk interferes, he comes in and he does like the Raven kind of sitting in the corner thing, and then hits the even flow DDT. Yeah. And it's good, like it ties into it. It doesn't take away from it. Yeah,
at all. It doesn't take away from it.
Doesn't ruin the match or anything. So no problem with the match here. Really good match. What I have in my notes here is that this TNA wrestling show is really good when they let the wrestlers wrestle. Yeah. But the problem is that so between the bell of the first match ending and the bell of the second match starting, there are 23 minutes.
Yeah.
And in this 1 hour and 50-minute show, there are 43 minutes and 30 seconds of wrestling. It's what I was getting watching this was the same kind of frustration and impatience I get when I watch a modern WWE pay-per-view, you know, where there's a match and then there's a segment and then there's a load of ads and then there's a recap and then there's a word from our sponsor and then there's a promo and then there's and then by the time you get to the next match, it's been 20 bloody minutes. Yeah. And I was starting to get the same kind of frustration and impatience I get when I watch those.
Well, that makes sense. You know, it is kind of one of those things where they knew what they had, and they kind of had to make it stretch out, but also Russo's there trying to tell this overarching story that kind of undermines his own story. And like, look, that match was quite good. It's a shame that Punk wasn't in TNA. He was there for a little while. Like, he wasn't in there for that long, so it doesn't really pay off the way they wanted it to pay off.
Well, and it's strange that you say that, because there was a lot happened on this show where I was like, oh, I would actually like to, in terms of the story, I would like to find out what happens there. Like,
that one pays off. That one pays off in different companies. It pays off in independents around Europe, where Raven and Punk have one of the best dog collar matches ever. Like, but it's not in TNA, because at this time, they would work anywhere. So stories would, you know, that's what I mean. It's like, it's a nebulous period where, yeah, they'd be working on a house show, working on one indie, doing TNA, going back. And that's kind of how this worked.
Isn't that how they ended up with the title being vacated? So prior to this show, the world champion before AJ had been Dan the Beast Severn.
Yeah.
And then he was supposed to be, I think he supposed to be on this, defending his title. But nothing happened. He wasn't injured. He wasn't under contract. He just had other shows on in Japan. It was just
and he wanted to do that instead. Yeah.
I've got these dates in Japan I have to do. And they just had to take the belt off.
But you know who we did get? New Jack.
Yeah.
So New Jack has this insane backstage promo where he's like, I don't know many wrestling holds, but I know about beating ass. And he's going to beat Mike Sanders' ass. And then Shark Boy shows up.
Watch this promo, folks.
It's amazing.
Jared, you know my feelings on New Jack. I think he's a fucking asshole. Like, I really don't like him. This made me like him.
It's hilarious. Promos. It's so good. It's so good. But so the match itself, right?
Well, just so Shark Boy shows up in the promo and he's talking about beating Shark Boy, but it turns out that what he's talking about is beating him at games they play. So it turns out him and Shark Boy play all these games, and then I swear to God, I had to pause this because I laughed so much. New Jack's like, I beat your ass every night. I beat your ass at every game we play. I beat you at Twister. I beat you at that game with the white woman on the front.
That got me too.
Lost it.
That got me too.
Just lost it.
That got me too. It was amazing. So there are a couple of interesting signs when New Jack walks out. Did you catch any of them? There's a few of them.
Is this, I think, so one I saw was no good gays, no bad gays, just assholes.
There's a similar one, wash your ass, exclamation point. I don't know what that even means. Or what, like in what context? That's so weird. So that's one that, you know, is on the hard camera for like the majority of the match. It's hilarious. But yeah, like I don't know who this lad is. Mike Sanders, I think he's a comedian. But he was in WCW for a little while. And yeah, it's so they explain what this is. So this is a hard 10 tournament, right? So it's a hardcore match, but it's a point system. So you need to, every weapon shot has points, with the largest amount of points being for a table spot, which is 5. Did this make any sense? So this is what I mean about TNA explaining their gimmicks. Yeah.
So every clear weapon shot, so everything that I assume that you didn't block or put your hands up or whatever, because going back to AEW's list, there are a lot of unprotected headshots in this match.
Yeah.
Every clear weapon shot is a point. Going through a table is 5 points, and the first person to get the 10 points wins. So there's no pin or submission or anything like that. I have a feeling.
And again, going back to the thing, all the weapons are from the crowd.
Oh yeah, absolutely taking stuff from the crowd. I don't know this Mike Sanders guy either, but I have a feeling that New Jack knew just how long this match was going to go, because before, just at the end of his promo before he goes out to the ring, he's like, he goes, I'm going to beat this guy up. This is no bother. This is going to be me an easy match. I'll see you in 5 minutes, Shark Boy. And this match literally goes 5 minutes.
Yeah. You know, it's a bizarre kind of relic of like a cool idea. Like, look, it's an interesting idea because it's competitive sparring with weapons.
Yeah.
And it's very interactive as well. I mean, like the crowd must have loved it, and obviously they were trying to get their, trying to get people into it as much as possible. I've never really seen anything like this outside of TNA, for better or worse. But in practice, New Jack is killing them, like legitimately, like he's absolutely welling them out of it. And at the other side, it's like it's very hard to, like, as you said, really kind of suspend your disbelief, because there's way more than 10 shots in this. I mean, like, Mike Sanders is winning somehow while he's bleeding all over the place. And you're like, wait, what's going on? But New Jack is very entertaining in this match. He really is.
What I'll say is, so this was they learned from the mistakes of WCW. So they know that these kind of weapons-heavy plunder brawls are fun for 5 minutes, and that's it.
And that's
not 10 minutes, not 15 minutes. Like, you go out and you do the thing and you do the spots and people cheer and laugh and blah, blah, blah. And you get it over with. So, like, this was a grand match. But honestly, for me, the best part of this match was watching Shark Boy in the crowd with his huge
Hulk hands.
Green Hulk hands on him. Every time New Jack was like, every time New Jack was winning, he was like, Hulk hands up in the air. And then whenever Mike Sanders was fighting back, he was like, oh no, Hulk hands covering his face.
It was fun. It was a lot more fun than what New Jack would normally do. And I mean, TNA New Jack is a very different beast in that sense. So, we'll see what happens. So New Jack obviously won 10-7. And then we got a gratuitously long promo for Trinity, who I don't recall ever showing up again. What did you think of Trinity, who made it known that she's a stunt double, likes the pain, and is the stunt double for Elektra?
This was so long that it was actually felt like it was in two parts. So, because I was watching it and I was, oh, right, grand. Maybe she's coming in, she's going to be a big deal, blah, blah, blah. And then it kept going on. And then I was looking at going, is this a video package for a different woman wrestler? Or are they still talking about Trinity? So, like, even without knowing where this went, and then, like, I was kind of confused by it. And also, if you're going to bring a wrestler in, I mean, talk about how good they are at wrestling. Don't spend 10 minutes telling me that they're a stunt double for B movies or whatever.
So then we got two flashbacks. One of Raven's debut, and when Jeff Jarrett won the belt. And then also for D'Lo Brown, who is positioned as a top star. Yeah, which is wild, really, when you think about it.
Some of these flashbacks, I mean, they're not all, but some of them are pretty good. Some of them go, oh, I'd actually wouldn't mind going back and watching that. So there is really good stuff here. So what gets me is that a lot of the flashbacks are of wrestling.
Yeah.
So they know that the wrestling is the kind of the thing they have that differentiates them from WWE, because they have some genuinely, like, really innovative, exciting up-and-coming guys. And, you talk about, like, the likes of the X Division. So what I don't understand is why all these flashbacks are focusing on the wrestling, but the show itself, like, 2/3 of it is not wrestling.
Well, we did get some wrestling, and we got the return of our favourite Bukali, PJ Polacco, a.k.a. Just Incredible, coming out as Just Incredible, which really is incredible, because I mean, he got fired from WWE and is not allowed to use that gimmick. But it was before his PJ Polacco, so or before and after, because I mean that actually is his name, so it's in between when he was PJ Polacco.
I wonder,
the artist formerly known as Just Incredible, he should have just don't use that.
Maybe he thought to himself, like, I'm barely over. And nobody cares about PJ Polacco, but at least the name Just Incredible is memorable. Yeah. So I'm just going to use it, and we'll see what happens.
And if I get a letter in the post, then we'll stop.
But if I come out there as PJ Polacco, I'm dead anyway. So
that's true. So he had a match with extremely little setup with Jerry Lynn, and basically they were mates. They were having a little talk backstage, and they called each other a bitch, and now they're angry.
Well, here's what bothered me about this match. The match itself was fine.
It was fine. It was a 3-minute match that Just Incredible won with a pole driver, I think. Wasn't it? Was it a pole driver?
Yeah, but here's what bothered me about it is that, so it came with a wee video package beforehand, and it was all about how these guys, best friends, turned bitter enemies, who're just going to get their hands on each other and tear each other apart. This is a blood feud. And they get in the ring. So Just Incredible gets in the ring, and then Jerry Lynn comes in after him. Jerry Lynn doesn't wait for the bell. He tears across the ring towards Just Incredible, and you're like, oh, he's going to punch him or kick him or bite him, or they're just going to battle life. Oh no, it's a lockup.
Yeah, a lockup.
He tears across the ring to lock up. This blood feud has started with a
wrestling hole.
It's just, and it's over in 3 minutes. So,
and it ends with them pulled apart, which also is like, okay, this is crazy. So from
in ring, this was kind of the first dip of the show for me in terms of in rings. But again, none of this was actually bad. Like
no. But from there, we had basically 10 minutes of nonsense. The first bit of nonsense was with the Tree Live crew, who were in the dark match, but they weren't actually on the show. And the Tree Live crew are Conan, Ron the Truth Killings, and former #1 contender who went 1-on-1 with the Great One on Raw.
Challenge the Great One.
Challenge the Great One on Raw.
Was only 2 seconds from taking the world title off The Rock.
In his prime.
In his absolute, at his peak.
At his peak. Obviously, the Road Dogg, Jesse James, going as BG James.
Right.
So
here's where I need you to...
I don't know if I'm going to be able to answer this question or not because, go on. I don't know because I don't know why. Go on.
Okay. So, do you know what the backstory is here? Because so we'll explain to the viewers what happens. I'm going to explain it from my point of view as someone who has no context, doesn't know what the storyline is, hasn't watched TNA. Conan, Ron Killings, and he's not calling himself the Road Dogg. I'm just going to say Road Dogg.
Let's go Road Dogg.
The Road Dogg.
Former #1 contender is also okay.
Former #1 contender. Came within 3 seconds of winning the title. Road Dogg are all sitting backstage, right? And then Road Dogg turns to R-Truth and just says a load of really racist stuff. Like, he's like, yeah, and you really love fried chicken, don't you? Tell me about your fried chicken, boy. You know, like, it's a real 1950s racist nonsense. And then turns around to Conan and is going, yeah, you love your tacos, don't you? Don't you? Salad of order. What's Taco Bell like? And I'm sitting watching going, what's happening?
What's happening?
So can you provide any context? Was Road Dogg doing a Ku Klux Klan gimmick at the time? Or?
No. Quite the opposite, actually. So
he was doing a Black Panthers gimmick?
No. So Tree Live crew are a staple, right, of these three men. Each man, you're going to have to...
So these guys are all in the same team?
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't get that at all.
No. Okay, hold on. This is... There's no way I can put this well, so I'm glad it's thing. Each one of the men, we're supposed to represent an ethnic stereotype.
Oh, okay.
So Road Dogg is a trailer park. Yeah, he's a trailer park gangster, is what they call it, right? Or B Jizzle, right? Killings was known as the Truth, right? And he was supposed to be, like a stereotype for that. And then a black rapper. Gangster rapper, yeah. And then Conan would be Latino rapper, basically.
Right.
So
this promo for people who are new to the company
so it leans
really needed some context.
It leans very heavy into it. And again, it's like they're on the same team. But it's like bigging up the team, but also kind of there's no nuance. That's the thing. There's no nuance. It's like straight into it, like.
Because I was wondering, because at one stage, like, so it was so hard to figure out what was going on. So, like I say, Road Dogg's being really racist towards the two of them, and then R-Truth or Ron, I'm just say R-Truth. R-Truth sort of comes back with like a jabe to him. He's like, "Hey, BJ, how do you close your fridge door? You let the air out of one of your trailer tires." I was like, "What? What's happening?"
See, that's it. It's supposed to kind of set up the gimmick, really, because the matches that they shot were dark matches, right? But they would be shown on Explosion, so they're trying to build up this team in very limited time. Because the way, think about it, right? If you only bought this show and you're like, "Oh, okay, I'm going to watch a couple of matches," they had to actually get as much across as possible without any nuance, and that's why there isn't any.
Yeah.
But Vince Russo would try to be provocative, and obviously you end up with that problem.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you're watching this show without any context, the first thing that comes to your head is like, well, now I know why Road Dogg was fired. He's clearly a massive racist.
But then again, like Truth came back with him with a similar racist comment. So it's just there's no, without Wikipedia, I wouldn't know that, you know. But again, it's of its time, man. You know, it's like they knew what they were doing. The crowd obviously didn't cheer, so they didn't know what they were doing. But Vince Russo knew what they were doing. And again, what have we said before? The show makes sense, but Vince Russo adds in these nonsense again. And then there's like a, I think it's Hornswoggle in the bin for no reason, or some lad that looks really like Hornswoggle, and it's like, oh man, what is this? What is this? You know, and it's just kind of is what it is, you know, which isn't good. Then we have,
and then just to add to the trifecta of offense, Conan decides, well, if you're going to be racist, I'm going to be really homophobic, and starts going on about how, what is it? You pack more fudge than a Hershey's factory. Sitting watching this going, what's happening?
Oh my God. Yeah, no, it's, as I said again, that's why, you know, I warned you from the beginning, folks.
I'm watching it on YouTube going, where's the report button?
That's why I'm saying, folks, watch the show, because you can't make this up. This happened. It's still on YouTube, and it's not even age restricted. You know?
No, like if WWE had done an angle like this would be up on YouTube, and this, or it'd be on the network, and this bit would have been removed. There would be like, you know, the way they've gone back and they've taken out like Roddy Piper's blackface and Triple H's blackface and all that. This would be one of those things that's just quietly spliced out.
So in the middle of the next match, right, which is Kenzo Suzuki and Perry Saturn, and actually a very good match. It ends in a no contest. There's a sign, and your man is so proud of it. He has this stupid face on him, and it says, "No good guys, no bad guys, just holds."
Oh, I thought it was just assholes, but it's
no, just holds.
Just holes. Oh my God, that's so much worse.
That's so much worse.
That's so much worse.
And the face on him, he's like, yeah. You can see.
Yeah. I came here for the holes.
Is that Mark Madden? No.
So like WWE have bought up WCW and ECW, and it's like you're a big wrestling fan, but if you're not into that, where do you like? What is it that attracts you to TNA? What's different about it? I like the holes.
It's like that bit from The Simpsons, you know? They like itchy, they like scratchy. This guy really likes holes. What's more do they want? Oh, man.
I was a bit frustrated with this match because I love Perry Saturn. I didn't know Kenzo Suzuki that well, but I mean, coming from New Japan, I kind of just assumed that he's going to be really good and really hard hitting.
Well, here's the bit I didn't get right. To get the no contest, there is a run in where they attack each other afterwards. So PJ Palacco runs out with Jerry Lynn with a kendo stick, right? And LPJ uses his stick and on Perry's arm. And then Jerry Lynn fights him, and they have a little fight between themselves. And why? Like,
yeah,
why? Like, what was the point? What was the point?
This was really frustrating for me because, like I said, big fan of Perry Saturn and big fan of New Japan guys, and I really wanted to see this match. And it went less than 5 minutes, and it just had like you were saying, just this pointless, ridiculous interference, this non-ending, and it was just like, this is peak like Attitude Era WWF, peak WC, like the bad aspects of it, peak WCW, where like they're putting on fixtures, like matches that you really genuinely want to see, but every single one of them is ending in a no D or a DQ run in, no contest, like 40 lads batted in the ring. You're like, can we just have one goddamn wrestling match that goes to a finish? So like I have on my notes here, like every third note is just in capitals, this reeks of Russo. This reeks of Russo. And yeah, on one of them I have down here is the really looking forward to this match. Less than 5 minutes. Interference non-finish. Absolutely reeks of Russo.
So afterwards, there's like an interview with AJ. It's not very long, but there are some flashbacks and there's some notable appearances. Scott Hall is in there. They have it's outsider Scott Hall, so he's wearing the gear, like, and also you have Grandmaster Sexay, who also is just doing the Grandmaster Sexay gimmick, wearing the gear, and you're like, wow. They don't even care.
Maybe they were like WWE owns everything now, so like this is the end of the line. So I'm just going to use this gimmick until
the gear breaks and it doesn't work anymore. I don't have to buy new ones. But it sets up for a match with Triple X, Christopher Daniels, and Eli Skipper, with Low Key, who you know as Caval, who you know as Senshi, against America's Most Wanted. Now, America's Most Wanted would be James Storm and Christopher Harris, right? Now, I cannot emphasize how important America's Most Wanted are in TNA. They are the biggest team ever in TNA. So it's important. They will come up an awful lot. They are very important. Just for notice. But Christopher Daniels as well is there, and he's a main. That lad just shows up randomly. Like in TNA, he's there all the time. But you know, doing this show, we've just seen him pop up in random places. And at least in TNA, you know, he's going to be there all the time. So this match was 7 minutes. It was actually a very, very good match. Opened in a very unique way. You know, the promo was what it was, but the little backstage brawl was pretty neat. And it would end up with I don't know, because the Christopher Daniels really wasn't really a face. He was always a tweener. So it ended with what the crowd were kind of happy with. But obviously, America's Most Wanted were. The people love America's Most Wanted, so this was a weird
but they were kind
decision.
of covered by the
it was a weird decision.
Backstage assault before the match.
Yeah,
Like,
and Caval's there anyway with a broken arm. I think that's why he wasn't on the show. So
yeah, but he does like pull out the referee and different
he does.
things.
Yeah.
Like I can kind of tell by the tone of your voice that you have the same kind of view as I do in this one, that again, this was not in any way, shape, or form a bad match.
No, it really wasn't. It really wasn't.
Perfectly good match, and like nobody would, like you say, nobody would even be particularly upset by the ending. But I just don't, for whatever reason, maybe it's because it went, you know, like all the matches on this like didn't really go long enough to get invested in it. I just kind of don't have a whole pile to say about it. Like it was a perfectly good TV match.
No, I'm the same, right? And what makes less sense is what follows afterwards, where it's an interview with I think that's Jerry Jarrett actually, who's Jeff Jarrett's dad, who owned TNA before it was sold, and it doesn't need to be there. It really doesn't. It really, really doesn't. But I can understand it because I mean it's quite, you know, it's his vision, obviously, right? So I get it. But what follows afterwards, holy hell!
This was just deranged.
Holy hell! So okay, as an outside perspective, man, as somebody who's never seen TNA before, what did you make of this?
Right. So the first 9/10 of this, I was just an absolute confusion and a little bit of horror, and just what in the hell is going on? And then for the last 1/10 of it, and I'll explain why when we get there, I was just in absolute stitches on the floor, just like absolute hilarity. So this section is, it's not Kid Cash who comes out. Who's the guy who comes out first?
The big tall fella.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's call him. Hold on. Actually, hold on. Get his name now. Hold on. Eric Watts.
Eric Watts comes out, and it's just a generic promo. The crowd's not really behind him. Like,
I was going to call him discount Big Cass, but
yeah. Do you know what? I got that exact same thing.
Did you? Yeah.
Except I didn't want to say it because he's Big Bill in AEW now, and he's actually brilliant.
Fair.
He's hilarious. He's one of those undercard guys who's probably just brought in to be a body, but he is getting so over with the crowds. Like, he's genuinely funny. He had a brilliant tag team eliminator match there on Wednesday with him and Brian Cage against MJF and Adam Cole, and he like rips off MJF's shirt and starts pretending to wipe his ass with it. But then he, rather than just wiping his ass with it and throwing it, he wipes his ass with it, and then he like looks at the shirt and he's like examining the imaginary poo on the shirt, and then he decides he hasn't gotten everything, so he like goes back in for one more, like sweep over wipe just to make sure you're done.
Well, you know what's weird about this, right? So it goes. I'm gonna have to check the segment out, actually. That's gas. But what's weird about the segment is I'm trying to I'm just looking at it here again, right? And Goldilocks, it's just weird. Is the interviewer, right? So obviously her and your man are together, and it looks like Abyss is in the background. I think that's Abyss. Yeah. But they don't actually reference it. Did you catch a reference to Abyss? And then
I only assumed it was Abyss because I think I could kind of see like a glimpse of the mask.
The tattoo. The tattoo is what gave it away.
The tattoo. Yeah. But so this discount Big Bill is in the ring. He's giving a bland promo, blah, blah, blah. Then Kid Cash storms out. Storms down. Taping his fist, storms into the ring, and he tears into just the most bewildering promo where he's screaming at this guy going, I love beating up women. I'll beat up all the women in the world, and I'll beat up your woman, and you're out here acting like a woman, and I'm going to beat you up because I love beating up women. What the hell is... What's going on? What is happening here? I just love beating women. Oh, God, I love beating a woman. What the fuck is happening? And then the next thing, your man, after about 3 minutes of this guy got into great detail about how he just loves assaulting women. Like, your man, Discount Big Bill is at his limit. He's like, hold on now, listen, I can take 2 minutes and 50 seconds of a stranger screaming about how they love baiting up women, but 3 minutes is my limit. So he grabs him by the neck and he holds him up for a choke slam. But he does that choke slam where he's holding him up, and 15 seconds later he's still holding him up there. He hasn't slammed him, so he's obviously waiting for some sort of interference that, I don't know if that technical issues or what. So he's holding him up there, and the next thing, Goldie appears on the screen.
Yes.
And she's in this cage, and she's going, help me. And then rather than choke slam him, he's so overcome with, concern that he has to run off and help Goldie. So he just puts your man down, even though it would take the same amount of time. Arguably, it would be faster to choke slam him. But he runs off. Goldie's in this cage, and this guy is just, which we think is Abyss, is just kind of looming behind her. He's not doing anything. Like, it looks super dodgy, but you could probably explain it in court. He's like, well, I didn't actually touch her, or but she's in this locked cage, and he comes running down, and he's he's kicking the padlock, and I'm going, oh, well, that's a metal padlock, buddy.
But my favorite part is he kicks the door, and Perry Sarton's just like, what? What's going on?
He accidentally then, so beside the cage, there's this door, and he accidentally bumps into the door during one of his kicks, and the door swings open. And
Perry Sarton's just there. It's hilarious.
You get a full view of Perry Saturn in his cacks, clearly changing his gear after his match, just looking up at the camera. What the hell is going on?
Oh, it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
It's just, I just love the whole ramshackle nature of the setup. They were like, all right, where are we going to put this cage? Put it beside the changing rooms. Like, that won't cause any problems. It reminded me of in WCW when Jericho gets kicked out of the building and he's supposed to be locked out, but they forgot to lock the door. So Jericho runs up, like he's supposed to like start pulling on the door and banging on it, going, "Let me in!" And he runs up and he pulls the door, and the door opens. And then he has to just pretend the door didn't open. So he starts banging on this door, going, "Let me in!" You're like, Jericho, you opened that door like a second ago.
Oh god, it's so funny. It's such a random segment.
This was just deranged.
So we don't get any answers. Obviously, Kid Cash is, the villain. And then we get a video package showing Jeff Jarrett beating AJ Styles, and then Styles and Raven and Jarrett in a match for the title, and that's when AJ wins. So, it is what it is. It's setting up now the main event, which of course is
just before the main event, we got what this show really needed, which was another Russo segment.
Oh god, yeah, that's true. So okay. Again, the main event is AJ Styles and Six Pack against Jeff Jarrett and Sting, right? But before that, Jeff Jarrett comes out and AJ comes out with Russo. Russo, who has already cut a ridiculously long promo earlier on in the day,
launches into another one.
Another one that makes even less sense. Because I'm like, I've never...
Which is saying something after the segment we've just had.
Oh, yeah. No, basically his whole thing is, I got this major grab. I can't wait for this grab, Also, there's a great sign that says face paint sucks.
Yeah, I saw that one. I love that we're like, Russo, how did you do a promo that made less sense than the guy screaming, "I love hitting women"? I just love it. I just love hitting them.
Oh man, that's
wish you were a woman. So I could hit you.
That's up there with the Mark Madden. We need to that's brilliant. Oh my god, Kid Cash, woman beater, Mark Madden, Lear. There's just these characters that exist. That I'm sure these people aren't like this at all, but this is the characters they portray.
I don't know. Your man was very Kid Cash was very convinced
when he was screaming about it for like 4 minutes. Oh my god!
And Kid Cash, I understand you're a virgin. You have no interest in sex. Just stop beating women.
That's what these tape fists are for. Oh my god! Right, so. The promo that fits Russo.
We need to release it. We need to release a Kid Cash t-shirt. I love hitting women.
Of him walking down taping the fists.
Yeah.
That's it.
Even better, just do it with no reference to Kid Cash. Just I love hitting women. It's like for the only t-shirt in wrestling history sells zero t-shirts. So
the printer refuses to print it. He's like, no.
The company keeps calling us back on. It's definitely not a type.
But why? What?
You'd be like, all right, here, I'm sending you a link. It's a YouTube link to TNA first anniversary.
This would be like what happened to you in the video store when
Oh God, yeah.
But okay, to put this into context, just to go back to that promo for a second, right? This was like their biggest show ever. They dedicate time to that.
Yeah. Russo's like, all right, bro. It's the biggest show ever. It's going to be amazing. Here's what we got to do. Right before the main event, like everybody's going to be watching the main event. All eyes on you, kid. You need to go down there and you need to scream for 4 minutes about how much you love beating up women. Like you love hitting women. Like you love it. Like really go down there and sell that. It's pivotal to the show, man.
Oh God. So after that, so that's what we had, and that was the benchmark of nonsense for the night. But then Russo comes out and he's like, he cuts this big impassioned promo about how he's got the greatest scrap in wrestling history. You know, this great signing, and you're like, oh man, who's it going to be? You know, who's going to team up with AJ? Because AJ's even confused. He's like, I have no idea what's going on. And then he's like, oh, he's a degenerate, and you're like, oh God, I know what this is. And out walks Six-Pack.
Wow.
Sean Waltman himself makes some noise.
Make some noise. You owe us a Six-Pack euro.
And in fact, too sweet as well. It's fucking terrible.
In fact, you're slightly wrong there, because out walks Six-Pack is not true, because his music plays and then it doesn't come out. And then I'm thinking, oh, is this like because AJ is in the ring, then the music's playing but nobody's coming out, and I'm thinking like, oh, is this like an angle? He's going to jump in from behind them and pop Russo, or he's going to no-show the event, or is this part of the story? And no, he must have just like been in the bogs or something.
Or he's in catering, just finishing up his curry. Like, oh, okay, hold on.
Putting handfuls of chicken nuggets into his pockets for later. But he comes out then, right? And he's not even Six-Pack. He comes out in a tracksuit, like a full tracksuit. You're like, oh, well, now I know why you were late, because you were selling hash on O'Connell Street. That's...
yeah, he's not even wearing his gear. Like,
no, he's just in a full trackie, like literally a full trackie and a pair of gutties. And he comes out. I was like, all right, yeah, great. Like, and I'm a big Sean Waltman fan. Like,
well, he could have worn his gear.
He could have worn, like everyone else was wearing their WWE gimmicks.
He might as well. I mean, he could have even done the WCW one, which was the same gimmick. He probably had it somewhere, you know. It's like...
You're telling me you've got 400 leotards of different colors. You're telling me you couldn't pack one.
But no, man, I think this is topped by what happens. I don't know if you caught this or not, right? So when Sting and Jeff Jarrett walk out, there's two screens off to the side. Look, and these guys haven't got WWE money, right? They don't have a Titantron. They have two big LCD TVs. You're right. Do you know what I'm going to say next?
Is it one-time TNA champion?
No. Kind of. So, right. Obviously, this is like a PowerPoint. So they had to rush this, right?
It's full on a PowerPoint.
It's full on a PowerPoint. It's like animated graphics. And
there's a roadie backstage hitting spacebar every 3 seconds.
That's what's happening. So it's like 6-time world champion, 1-time NWA world champion.
Why not just go NWA or former why 1 time?
And then it's like, 3-time champion, and that just rushes through 77 combined championship runs. It's like, what is this? And then it's just Sting, Jeff Jarrett in like the most basic font in the world,
like Times New Roman, like Calibri or something. It's the same font that I type like my work documents.
Exactly. And it's like, okay, this took some intern like 20 minutes. Like, it's fine. Yeah. It's totally fine.
It was 20 minutes because he's an old laptop like me, and the first 10 minutes were spent trying to turn it off. But then, you know, when Sting did get in the ring, he was great, you know. Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, the Stinger is, you know, he's still in his prime here because it's WCW's thing for all intents and purposes. It absolutely is. Double J looks great. I'm a big fan of Double J. I think his best work is in TNA. Look, he does a reign of terror. He absolutely does, which I think a lot of people kind of forget about. But it's you know, it's more justified.
Isn't it mad that both those guys are in AEW now, and both of them are genuinely brilliant. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually,
I mean,
still really good.
but Double J's always been great. That's the thing.
Yes.
I just, for some reason in WCW, there wasn't enough room to breathe. And just whatever it is, same with Christian Cage, right? When we do eventually see Christian's work, it's unbelievable. Like, it's the best work of his career.
So
Like.
looking forward to that.
But the signs in this, man, I think this needs to be a separate book in and of itself. Like, I don't even know what's going on with these signs. Like, it's so random, and there's no creativity in them. Like, they're just black marker, you know. And
Black marker. I love hitting women. I'm gonna take that to Wembley, and in the middle of me being beaten up, I'm gonna be like, "It's a TNA reference."
No, a Kid Cash walks out just screaming. Oh my god! So, you know, a lot of the crowd are still holding like random weapons, which is weird. It's like, why are you still holding the trash can lid at some point? You know, but yeah, it's very off-putting because Six Pack is there and he's just in a tracksuit. So I actually forget he looks very similar to Vince Russo as well. So at one point when I was watching this, I'm like, is that Vince Russo? Oh no, it's not. Sorry, it's Six Pack. I can't believe no one proofread this before to be like, this will look really bad, but okay. And the crowd just are just confused by this whole thing. The front. Like 6 lads are just constantly staring not at the ring but at anything else. I think it's at Vince Russo. Everyone is taking pictures of Vince Russo.
So that's one thing. I said earlier that the commentary is consistently great through the night. I was wrong. For the last match, Russo gets on commentary and he Russo's all over it and just Russo's the life out of it.
And yeah, it's like, here's the thing though, he is over. Surprisingly, he's over, and I don't understand why.
Yeah, because he's like, is it? I think what Russo did, the only talent he actually has is that he very effectively positioned himself so he looked like he was responsible for the Attitude Era. Absolutely was not.
See, okay. Here's the thing, though, right? That's a different conversation that I think we'll actually 100% get into at one point. But at this point, right, it's important to remember this is after WCW collapsed. This is
partly because of them.
Partly because of them. This is after 2000 WCW. You know, the damage was already done. Like, and I'm like, did you not remember what happened 3 years ago, where, you know, you had Judy Bagwell on a pole match? Like, did we all just forget that part? And do you
remember
it seems like
remember our WCW arc we did of WCW pay-per-views? The last couple of pay-per-views when they got rid of Russo
were amazing.
We're actually getting back on track. Like,
yeah,
the very last WCW pay-per-view,
Greed.
Called Greed. Yeah, I was watching that going, this is a show I would watch.
Absolutely.
You know, if this was on every week, I'd watch this. And it's so I'm completely baffled by this.
But I will have to say, Sting in the ring, like this thing, he's great. Works really, really well with AJ.
You got Sting and Jarrett in there. You got Styles.
Yeah, but like Styles, 3 years before this was like on Velocity. You know, like, again, to put it into perspective, this isn't the AJ Styles of now. This is rookie AJ, and he's still incredible.
So he does some stuff in this match that's like genuinely brilliant, and a lot of wrestling isn't like, the real skill of it isn't the big moves or whatever. It's the little things that make stuff look legitimate. So he does a ref bump here, where he does he goes to super kick Jarrett, but he hits the ref. But it is the most slick, natural looking thing you've ever seen. Like, it doesn't look like 90% of ref bumps, no matter how good they are, always look really contrived. You know, This looks amazing. This looks legitimately like he was going to take I think it was Jarrett. He was going to take the head off Jarrett and Jarrett just kind of under his own weight just collapsed, and he clips the ref. And it's like I say, it's the little things just making them look legitimate that are, how you tell like a good wrestler from a great wrestler.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, the end of this is let down by, it has a ref bump and it has some Vince Russo shenanigans, but the right decision is there. Jeff Jarrett and Sting do eventually win. But again, the story they were trying to tell was that Raven wants his belt back. And instead of just doing that, they circle all the way around and include people that don't need to be included, included Shane Douglas, and have a random run-in, which, while it does eventually lead to the end of the match, it's also completely unnecessary.
It's so really bizarre. Doesn't this end with, like, is Douglas and someone else in the ring fighting?
No, they go up the ramp.
Oh, they go up the ramp.
Yeah.
But is there, during the pin, is somebody else in the ring fighting and the referee's just like,
so
ignoring these two people who aren't supposed to be there?
So they go up the final bit of it is, at the end of it, they're in the ring. Russo brings a chair in. Raven and Douglas come back in while 2 has happened. So it's not at the beginning of the pin, which I mean is why.
Right.
It's probably why. Again, look, you are right. A WWE ref would be like, "What are you doing?" But he's almost at 3. Sorry, Russo has a bat. So like, Jarrett does get the pin while being choked out by Vince Russo, and it's just nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. But again, the whole point of this story really was Raven wants his belt back. But then it sets up the new triumvirate of Raven, Jeff Jarrett, and Sting. And it goes off the air in a pretty cool way.
Yeah, it was really cool. And like I said, a lot of the stuff they did in the match was really cool. Like I said, I'm coming at this with no context, no background knowledge, but you in a good wrestling match, just through physical storytelling, they can kind of tell you what's happened. So that moment where you get Raven and Jarrett face to face, that even got me.
Yeah,
and I have no context for this, but as soon as it happened, it was so well done, and the two guys are so good that I instantly knew what it meant, and I was like, "Oh, this is good. This makes me want to watch the whole Ravens gathering corporation, Ravens trad session, whatever."
But I mean, that's that kind of why this show is a cool kind of, like, as I said, it's a vertical slice. It's because it is the best and the worst of TNA kind of at the same time, but it's not unwatchable. I mean, large sections are, and it's still, the bad is still fun. Yes. I mean, it is still a very watchable show, and it's quite a good show. And if you made it this deep so far, rather, one, I don't know how he did it. Fair play. Without watching the show, because it must have been weird. But if you haven't, like, we're going to link it in the description of the show, so go watch it. And it really is a must watch. Like,
I can completely understand how, like, if you're in 2003, like, the invasion stuff has happened, WWE's taken over. It's sort of very rapidly, once it gets rid of its competition, it becomes, like we're saying, the homogenized, pasteurized, kind of bland thing it is today. I can completely see how you would watch an episode of this absolute nonsense and be like, "Oh my god, I'm hooked. I'm going to watch this absolute. I'm going to watch this every week." This is so. It's like, reviews like this are hard because, like, in terms of reviewing it as a wrestling show, it's so frustrating because the actual wrestling is good to great, but there's so little of it. Like I said, it makes up 39 minutes of a 2-hour show. But there is...
Well, here's the thing. You were sports entertained.
Well, yeah, there's an element of chaos to it that, if you're kind of sick of the very rigid, controlled WWE product. Like, I could see how you would be drawn to this.
Yeah, and that's what kind of happened. I mean, it's funny because like the WWA, we will have to get into it, like, because it is, that's a wild thing in and of itself. It really is. I'm really excited. Like, there's a Black Rain, not Black Rain, sorry, a Black Wedding match with Luna and Gangrel, or the Vampire Prince, which is hilarious. And I actually found my signed DVD that was signed by Jeremy Borash and Jerry the King Lawler that I have from way back in the day. And that's just wild in and of itself. But
I'm looking forward to following this and finding out at what stage of his career Punk said, maybe the 2 nipple rings are holding me back. maybe
I
go
can't believe
one nipple ring, or maybe go no nipple ring.
I can't believe I didn't notice it, and now it's all I can look at when I look at a segment. But like, look, there are one or two things we can do here. You know, like there is a lot up on the Impact Wrestling YouTube site, but then you have their own network. And guys, I don't particularly want to pay for another network, but
God, no.
if there is demand, we might. But I think doing vertical slices like this probably is the way for the time being, because that means everybody can watch them. So, but there is a lot of amazing TNA, a lot of atrocious TNA, and then a lot of just this weird stuff. And I think the sweet spot, to be honest with you, even though it is bad, the sweet spot is like this mix, because I think this property captures just how crazy, because it's unlike anything else. It's not like pure garbage. It's not great, but then it also is. I mean, like AJ Styles is in there with Sting and Jeff Jarrett, and they're having bangers, you know. And at the same time, you have like
on paper, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, and then you have Six Pack walking out, who, as you said, looks like he's selling drugs on O'Connell Street. Like, it's, you know, it's wild, man.
Exactly. His music's playing. He's going, "Oh, sorry, I needed 20 cents for the time." What are you doing? Get out there and do a Bronco Buster.
I just love, you know, that he probably was in the back, just like in catering, just like shoving stuff in his pockets. He's like, "Oh no, I haven't got time to change, quick."
Who knows whenever I'm going to have money for croquettes again. Fill your pockets, 6-pack.
Those little small eggs they have as well. He's like, "Oh man, I'll eat like a king."
Goujons, oh my God. Am I back in WWE?
Don't know when he'll be back in WWE again. Oh man,
looks like 6-packs having protein tonight.
Oh man, so basically to close this out, man, what did you think of your first real TNA show?
Yeah, look, I'm definitely intrigued. I loved some of it. I hated some of it. I was just completely bewildered. Just absolutely disassociated from myself by some of it. But an hour and 50 minutes, it flew by. And at the end of it, I was like, it reminded me of the film Starship Troopers.
Yeah. Would you like to know more?
And I mean, yes. Against my better judgment, yes.
I need to know what Kid Cash has against women.
I would like to know more.
You know what? I don't even remember that this was the thing that Kid Cash did. So I'm also intrigued. I'm like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah. And like, I kind of want to know what happened with Goldie and Abyss. Like, is Abyss a terrible, scary abuser? Or, I mean, let's not forget, the cage was locked from the outside. So that's Abyss true. Is also just locked in there. Like, maybe he's like trying to say to her, "But oh my God, do you have any idea why this guy locked us in here?" And she's screaming, and he's like, "Well, I haven't touched you. I'm a victim too." What?
And I feel bad. And I feel bad for poor old Perry Saturn, who was just like, "Oh man, I didn't even get to win my match properly." What the hell?
Perry Saturn, like me, Perry Saturn's back there going, "Oh man, me and Kenzo, we had this great hard-hitting New Japan match planned, and then Russo came in and said, 'Oh, you got to do this.' Oh, really ruined my day. I'm just going to get changed now and head to what the hell?"
It's like, lads, what are you doing?
It's like, how could this day get any worse? Well, I suppose it's not like I appeared in my pants in front of everybody.
And PJ Polacco, the ultimate Bukali of everyone. So, we had enough of everybody. It was great.
PJ Polacco was like, I'm just going to go with the just incredible thing. And what if they like trademark you for it? It's like, I'm going to change my name to Hulk Hogan.
The one merciful part of this is, this is after X Factor, with the Uncle Cracker stuff. So It's like we had PJ Polacco and Six Pack, right? But Six Pack didn't call himself X Pack, but PJ Polacco called himself Just Incredible. So technically, they both could have just went with what they went with in WWE.
Yeah.
That's the bizarre part. And I mean, if anyone listening,
Six Polacco.
That's actually even better. If someone is listening and can answer this question, I'd love to know. And I was never actually able to get an answer, and I'll leave it on this. Why are some of the TNA guys using their WWE/WCW/ECW gimmick, and some of them aren't?
Yeah.
That's one I was never able to figure out. Like, fair enough. There's some guys who are using their names, like AJ and Jeff Jarrett and all that kind of stuff, right? But I mean, D'Lo Brown, that's not his name.
What?
It's not.
You mean at some stage in the 60s, 70s, a woman had a child and didn't call him D'Lo?
No, D'Lo. And like the Sandman, these are all things that WWE owns. But if you guys know, let us please know, because that would be great, because it would actually answer the question I have. And if you'd like us to do more TNA in the future, well, we totally can. But our next arc is going to be In Your House, number 1. So I'm excited for that. I looked at the card the other day and I was like, wow, this is Psycho Sid, which is always fun. Oh. And I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, I hope he gets promo time.
I hope he breaks his leg again.
Although I'm actually slightly worried now, because the last show we did that Psycho Sid was on, we had a great time word for word going through his promo, but now I'm worried that we've been desensitized to it by 4 minutes of Kid Cash screaming. Psycho Sid's going to seem tame, logical even after that.
Oh man, I'm looking forward to it anyway. But man, before we get out of here, is there anything you want to plug?
Yeah, I just want everybody out there, all our fans listening, Phoenix FM, everybody on Troopany channel, Nerds No Media, the whole gang. I just want them all to know how much I love hitting women.
In fact, ring them up and say that.
Ring them up and tell them. Just love it.
Don't actually do that, please. But no, I think it's absolutely a shirt we have to do at some point, because that's hilarious. With context on the back though. You're like, hold on, go to this link. Go to this.
Yeah. The front is just, I love hitting women, and the back is like disclaimer. and a link.
Oh man. Well, folks, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Wrestling Rewind. We'll be back next week. Again, please go over to our Patreon. Give us a 6-pack euro, which will be an X-pack euro next week, and or a Virgil tenor. That also works. And Martin, what's the other one?
Got a Punk's nipple rings $5.
And of course,
nothing says femboy like 2 nipple rings.
Oh my god. And folks, the best way to help out the podcast is obviously sharing and spreading the word as well, so we do appreciate it. Go over to Nerd to Know Media or thewrestlingrewind.com. We'll talk to you next week. Bye guys.
See you for that.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.